Hello, this is Rebirth of Legend here with another replay analysis. We're going to be looking at a Medusa game. Person asks, what could have done to win over this hour-long Medusa game? Feel free to give advice. This game is stupid long. 80 minutes. It hurts. Okay. Well, this is definitely something we're going to touch on in the video, the BKB purchase. Like, against their lineup, it's really not that necessary. And the butterfly, we could probably talk about like the different itemizations that you could have done. We'll look at more into that too. Unfortunately, I no longer have these fucking tabs. It looks like I could have looked at this had I had Dota Buff Plus, but I do not. So let's check it out. I mean, the game seems fine enough to have a Medusa. I think Medusa's pretty good against Spectre. Personally, actually, I think Medusa is like really, really strong in her current state. Her laning dominance is just incredible. With the Mystic Snake, it's just so strong right now. So you can't really go too wrong with it. On the unfortunate part where it doesn't synergize with OD is like you only really have Mystic Snake. I guess you have Mystic Snake in your ult to proc his aura, which is okay, I guess. Yeah, because you can't toggle split shot to do it anymore. There used to be like a thing where you can like get that with toggles, like Pudge toggling Rod or something, but I think they patched it. But yeah, so it's nice against Spectre because anytime she ults, you can negate her ult with yours, and yours is a shorter cooldown. Probably not the best way you want to be using it, but it's definitely not bad. Since the illusions have no control, you can't turn these illusions around, so they're just gonna do the same thing. The only problem is that she's a natural. Oh fuck! Don't crash. She's a natural diffusal carrier, so if she went like Manta Diffusal instead of Radiance, you could find yourself in like a bit of an awkward situation. But it looks like the pick is coming relatively late, so they won't even have room to really counter it. Yeah, it's the last pick. Last pick, dude, so. So yeah, when you look at this game, it's like, they don't really have great ganking arrows. Ult doesn't necessarily hurt you that much. Disruptor ult, once you have your spell shield on, it's also not a big deal. I think it's fine. You can handle a Weaver pretty well too. And they pick an Invoker. So that's like a good counter early on because his EMP obviously fucking hurts you. But the EMP requires him to go Quaswex, if that's really what he's aiming to use it with, which he's a mid-invoker, and most mid-invokers do not go Quaswex anymore. We don't actually have a skill on him yet, so we don't know exactly what he's doing. But yeah, like late game, the EMP doesn't really mean anything, and like that's the only reason I can really see you wanting to get a BKB versus them. Is like, oh, EMP, but it doesn't matter. Like, if you think about it, EMP is gonna burn. I think at okay, so he's doing Quaswex. What are they laning? I mean, he's clearly an offlane, so he is doing Quaswex.
Look at this game. It just started, baby.
So emitting a Weaver? Okay. I kind of like that, because I don't think you want to do Quaswex on the safe lane one. The problem with this is, like, you're going to have a field day against... Okay, you're mid. Alright. I don't know if you were all trying to dodge here, but good job. What's going to be kind of annoying is I'm pretty sure he can just go invis and dodge that, unless you bounce it on him, but you want to bounce off as many as possible before you hit him with the snake. So it makes it kind of awkward. Can I look at the skill build real quick that you do? Snake, shield, snake, split, snake. I think this is a mistake. You can get stats over Stone Gaze, because Stone Gaze, like, look at the scaling on this. Cooldown's the same. It's only 10% more physical damage. Duration doesn't change. Everything's exactly the same, except for 10% more physical damage. I usually just invest in stats until a little later on, because that gives you a little bit more survivability damage, all that shit. I think you get the one casual point of mana shield, and then you max the split shot after your Mystic Snake, so you can maximize your farm. Because like if you have max split shot and your snake, you farm like stupid fast on Medusa. Like it's actually kind of disgusting how fast you farm on Medusa. You get a bottle? Okay, cool. I think bottle's fine. I mean, you know, you're mid hero and you're Medusa. I mean, it'd be hard to say it is wrong. I think you're creeping pretty good right now too. Actually, I missed some. No, you're not doing that great. That's okay. But like, this isn't stuff we're really gonna worry about too much because I think that's like a 4K MMR game. I think what we're gonna see is like some less efficient farming patterns, and I think it's a mistake to play Dusa like a hard farmer, like an anti-mage or like a Spectre to a lesser extent, I guess, where you're like actually just AFK trying to farm the whole time. Like if you get like Tread's Drum Wand or something, you can just 5-man. And I think against someone like a Spectre, it's really important to do that because with some decent early items, like Stonegate is really hard to deal with. Like it's super fucking annoying. Now they're switching it. It's kind of weird. Now he's at a level disadvantage. He's gonna get ruined by Snake. That was a poor decision on their part. I guess they tried switching it so they got these lanes. I don't know why they'd ever want the Invoker against the Medusa though. It's a very odd decision. But yeah, I don't play mid too much, so you'll have to forgive me my degree of ignorance on certain things, like laning mechanics, whatever. But I think that a lot of things still carry over. Like, I prefer treads a lot over phase because I think tread toggling with Mystic Snake is ridiculously strong for your farming. Because like, let's say you're going through the woods or you're using it to push out the lane too, you can lose like quite a lot of mana from doing that. So being able to tread switch is like super helpful. So like here, if you max the Mystic Snake, like what I would be doing is nuking this down and then going into the woods right now. Like you just want to maximize your farm to like an extreme. Let me go a little faster here. So like right now, you really should just be nuking it down and like going to these jungle camps. Like you're a hero who can flash farm like that, so you need to be doing it. Like I think my average Dusa game right now is probably over 10 creeps a minute in like the last 5 or 8 I've played. Just because like the farming patterns are, she flash farms like super quickly as long as she can get to creeps. Like an AM doesn't have a problem getting to creeps. She kind of does because she doesn't have like a blink or anything like that. But if you can get like once you're at a creep wave, it just like instantly dies. This is cool, we took that. So like this is where that's going to be really important because you're not going to be able to utilize mid as much. So like maxing the spell shield here is kind of awkward because like its scaling's okay, but it's way better when you have a much larger mana pool. So like increasing it by 0.3, it's like alright, but maxing out this ensures you get more farm. And when you get more farm, it gives you more experience because you're killing more creeps, and then you'll eventually get those levels anyway. And it's definitely not worth scaling this at 11. Like, even if you want to, I talked about it a little earlier, where I don't think the scaling on that's that good, where I'll usually get 1 point and then stats. Like, I sometimes won't even skill that until level 10, just because you can farm so much with Split Shot and Mystic Snake. I think it's probably fine if you're mid, because there's a greater chance of you getting ganked and it kind of sneaking up on you. So that was good. But like, oh, we're just doing a straight Scotty Rush. So to like touch on this a little bit, I think interim items are really, really important on pretty much any hero. Deuce is like one who it's really good on. Like I think right now you could probably have, if you were farming better, you could have like 100 creeps right now. Like at least 90. I don't think that's being unreasonable. I think if you were just, if you were 441, if you were 441, you'd be able to nuke this down and start doing that at about like even like 4 minutes or something. And like that harass is disgusting, particularly on an invoker, because the invoker's gonna not only is gonna lose his HP, he's gonna have to stay on quas the whole time to like regen, but he's not gonna have mana, which means his rotations aren't gonna be there. Just by constantly spamming that out, it's gonna really fucking annoy him. So I actually really like when I already talked about the phase boots. I don't like phase boots that much. But I think you should consider more interim items. Like a wand is amazing. But think about it. She tanks up based off her mana pool and her obviously actual health because of spell shield. So things that increase both of those are really good. So something you'll see a lot of people do is like casual Yasha for farming, which I think it's not bad. But lately, like the paths after Yasha are terrible. Like Manta and SNY are both garbage on her. Manta increases your int by a little bit, but the cost of using it negates it. and it doesn't actually help with your damage. It's just a really awkward item to have. But you already have the Yasha, so it feels weird throwing that away. And S and Y is like, oh, I've got some more move speed and like a slow, but you already have a Scotty. You should have a Scotty anyway. So, and when do you get it in there? It's a really awkward item too. So like lately, I've actually been skipping the Yasha in favor of drums. Drums give you 9 stats in every category. Gives you 12 damage. So that greatly increases your tank ability compared to like an S and Y, which is only increasing your strength by like 16. That's increasing your strength and your mana by 9. So it's functionally very similar in like the tank ability of an S and Y for Medusa at like half the cost, like less than half the cost, like 40% the cost. And like wand's another huge thing. You're in a fight and you get 16 wand charges, like or 17 wand charges, and you use that. Like right now, it's like 15 each. Times 15 is 150 plus 225. 30 to 55 each, which is like a huge amount of tank ability for you. So in early game fights, it's like a huge thing. You see people committing on these huge items at first, and that's not necessarily bad. Obviously, if you don't waste money on interim items, that can be good, but it forces you into wanting to finish this item. While like something like a drum's wand would let you group up a little more. Like right now, they have a Spectre. You could totally just group up with your team and take their towers. Like we said, particularly at this phase in the game, she ults your teams around you, you ult, all of her illusions die. Like it's that simple. They don't even well, it takes 3 seconds from hold on. I think it's 2 seconds. Yeah, so after 2 seconds her illusions will disappear. She ults, you ult, all her illusions die, your ults negate at the best case scenario. And like a huge part of Spectre is her ability to just jump into fights and get kills, and that's how she recovers from maybe a poor laning phase. I mean, you guys have an Undying. She really should have had a worse lane, honestly. This hero's disgusting. I like stopped playing Spectre because of this era. It's like really fucking annoying. But yeah, I think this is a mistake, like item-wise. I think that it just makes you like unflexible in like what you can do. And like, I don't think it's bad having drums and a wand. Or at the very least the wand, right? Like, when is it ever wrong to have a wand? I'd say the answer's really never. Just run away here. See, like, you should just be farming out the whole woods here. Like, you don't want to push that far. Like you were scared when you were there, right? Just like another thing. Like, see, this is what I was getting at. Like, because you have this Scotty, you want to finish a Scotty. And Scotty's a great item in Spectre. But you don't want to help your team. So now they just 3 deaths. If you were there, that doesn't happen. Like, how many Spectre... Fuck. Can we get a recap here? Okay. Spectre damage. It's 400. Not the most damage. But she got a kill, and she got a lot of experience. Like, if you were able to go there for that and, like, say, okay, team, I got, like, Drum's Wand, let's group up. And, like, you can easily have Drum's Wand right now because you have an Ultimate Orb. It's the same price. You could easily group up and take down these towers. And, like, winning that fight versus 3 people dying is you taking these 2 towers. Or at the very least the 1 tower. And it doesn't even, like, slow over your farm that much because you have this whole jungle to farm while you're doing that. Like, it's something you want to think about. I think it's a mistake to play this like, oh, better just get to late game. Particularly against the other hero who's extraordinarily good at late game. The difference is, like, Spectre kills all your supports and then leaves you alone, while Medusa can kill people who run at her. Like, she can force the fight on her. It's like this is another fight right now. Wait, that's not the same fight, right? No, it's not the same fight. It's another time where you're not with your team because you're just farming a Scotty. Like, you're just ceding a lot of ground right now. Like, your team was really even, and imagine if you were able to group with them right now and take objectives. And, like, the way Spectre gets into stuff, like we said, is by catching up in kills at this state in the game. And now she's 6-0-7. And, like, that's exclusive. That's not all of it, obviously, but some of that. Probably half of those, like, kills and assists are from you not being here for these fights. Because, like, if you just group up as 5 and don't let Spectre get those, like, single pickoffs, what is she gonna do? She now doesn't farm fast, isn't getting catch-up kills, and, she doesn't farm fast, isn't getting catch-up kills, and is losing all of her towers. Like, if you could take away all of her... If you could take away, like, all of her space really early on and then start mass farming, like, that's great. or like force a high ground with like an Aegis, but you want to like take the map control and like 5-man early and take some objectives. And I really think you being there would have been the difference, and it would be the difference between your team being 15-7 instead of 7-15. But like they're still taking objectives without you ever showing up to this. You can even like leave mid now if you want. See, like the split shot not being max is also like slowing you down here. I do like this itemization though. I think it's pretty good. I love the follow up after Scotty with like Butterfly, because Butterfly is great damage and like great survivability, and it hurts them a lot. Nice, got a kill. Finally, we're showing up to a fight now. But now, like the first fight, just to, like pause for a second. You 2-0 and 2. Your first shot you're showing up to is 20 minutes. You have 140 creeps. That's okay. I think you could have way more than that right now, though. Like if I legitimately just chose not to show, I'll have farm like that, maybe even more, when I'm doing that 5-manning stuff with like Drum's Wand or whatever. I also, like I said, maxing split shot's a huge difference for that, because it changes how fast and how hard you push. Sorry, I was looking at something. It changes like how fast and how fast you farm and how hard you push. Like it changes those things. So that's why I could have more while grouping up more, and like also knowing how to group up and farm at the same time. Like in between creep waves, getting the side camps and shit. It's like those are like really important like carry fundamentals. I think. Okay, that didn't come back to bite you. So I was thinking like, yeah, the enemy is still close by, and you ult it to kill like an AA or something. So you call it quits here. Okay, that was smart. Oh, I'm on the wrong person. Why is that showing me like that? You know they're all in this area. It's kind of dangerous to be over here. Okay, so your whole team managed to show up. No one has detection. That's good. We don't want to kill a Weaver when he's like the 3rd HP. See, like, look how strong you are in this fight right now. Just at this state in the game, like this is 20 minutes. Keep in mind, you can have like this level of damage, like 10 minutes ago. And it's just you throwing out Snake and then being scared to rush you because of your ult, right? Like just throwing out Snake does just so much fucking damage in fights. Like it's actually disgusting. So you waited all this time, and now like your team's like coming back to an extent, but like, you didn't have to get far behind. I also like that you're not showing components to the Butterfly. That's a mistake a lot of people do. Like they'll buy a Talisman of Evasion or something, and then they'll lose a fight. And then when you buy that Talisman and then lose a fight, or you show, like I shouldn't say buy, I should say show it, and then you lose the fight when you're not close to it. Okay, my point has been negated right as I was making it. Whatever. When you like show this, like let's say you lose a fight here and they get that much closer to MKBs because they see you going for a Butterfly, so they start building the MKB counters. I mean, they have, this guy's a good MKB carrier. He's rushing a Butterfly though. I don't know if you saw that. Disappear too. This is also you not having a TP. You could have just TP'd out on this guy. He has like nothing, but you haven't had a TP for like the longest period of time. Sorry I was so quiet for that. I was like trying to see what's going on here. Like if you had a TP, you could just TP out. Like it's just a Weaver. You can't do anything. And like here you could have chose to turn on him if you wanted, which I think was right not to, but you like stop there and then you die for it. First death. And like see, this is what I'm talking about. Like you bought the Eagle Song and then you show it. Like let's say if this guy wasn't already working on his Butterfly, he could switch to an MKB. Like let's say he was sitting on that 3k gold, he could have like an MKB right now. It's 4,800, an MKB is 5,400. So he would be only like a few hundred gold from an MKB right now, which would counter you pretty hard. I think he could have even gotten a Diffusal Blade, which would be good. But you are fighting now, which is good. I think it was a mistake to wait that long. Well, I mean, I've beaten that horse to death, I suppose. But I do think you have to go, like, if you're paying attention to their itemizations, you should know, like, you have to go You have to go MKB after this because they have butterflies and a radiance, so it's pretty obvious. Let's see what your OG's items are. It's pretty normal. It's another one where you died. Yeah, you have to be careful, like, overcommitting, like... Here, you could... This is another point where you could TP out. If you didn't walk forward, you could have TP'd out here. And, like, you should know you're in a disadvantageous position. I mean, there's Spectres down, but, like, at least 2 members of your team have been down. Maybe a third one? I don't... But we'll see. It's kind of low level. I think it's like 5 seconds per level, right? No, 4. So 11 times 4, 44 seconds. So he was dead for 15 seconds there, I guess. Yeah, but you dying right now is really awkward. You see, like, his butterfly, he was behind you, and now he's ahead of you in terms of finishing it. Just because of these lost fights. And that, like, gives him time. I fucking hate people who don't build wands or interim items when they have so many free slots. Oh, it's so frustrating. It happens when you play support and you're always hurt for item slots. Because you're like, oh, I want wards and I want my wand. And you get to a point in the game where you can't afford both, and you see these rich motherfuckers not buying either. Douchebags. Yeah, and your farm is like falling off a lot too, which isn't your fault. It's kind of just how the game's been going. Like, you've been fighting for like the last 7 minutes. The TP is way more important than your quarterstaff. Because, like, unless the Invoker is there... Well, they have a few ways to stop TPs, I guess. His is delayed, though, so I think it's like 2 seconds, right? That's how they go now. 4 seconds? Yeah, so you have 4... Yeah, if you TP out, the only thing that can really stop you is a Glimpse or an Invoker. So being, like, cognizant of that means you could, like... Oh, buddy. Like, being aware of that means you can get out of a lot of spots. It didn't matter now, but there's situations that could matter. Nice. This Spectre being dead means you guys have to just push top right now. Like, hold on, you gotta pick off, and now you're smoking. This is like a huge tactical mistake right now. Like, you could have taken this tier 2 for free right now, and like, if they chose to fight without the Spectre there, or if the Spectre buys back, I don't think she has buyback. That doesn't tell me. Okay, whatever. I don't... It's like a way to see this, right? Buyback. She did not have it. She might have... Oh, wait, hold on. She did have it. So you could, by pushing top, you could have forced a spec buyback, which would have been good. Or even better, you don't force a buyback and you take the tower for free. Or their team tries to take a fight and then use the buyback to fight it. And then if you win that fight, you take a Rax automatically. Or if the team even fights without her because she chooses not to buy back when they go and fight, like, that's huge. But your team's smoked. Like, you smoke to get a pick off, then take objectives. You don't get a pick off, then smoke, and like stand there doing nothing. It's completely counter to how you're supposed to be playing. Like, that cost, like, between, like, this game goes for 80 minutes. So there's gonna be different things later on that can be the difference between winning and losing the game. But like, changing not that smoke play, or smoke lack of play, I guess would be more accurate, combined with like your choice to straight rush the Scotty and not contribute. If you just change like those 2 things, that probably shortens this game and results in you winning, honestly. Like I said, if this was 15-7 instead of 7-15 at that one point, and you're taking all their objectives, they're in like a horrible position. I'm also amazed. I don't even think you have a deny yet. 0 denies. Impressive. So that's forward. Yeah, so like making that choice and just like the Scotty rush, I think cost you a lot early on, and then not utilizing that smoke cost you a lot too. And like choosing to do like either one of those, he should just be going for MKB right now, I think. Yeah, he is. Choosing to do either one of those, I think, could have gotten you critical objectives that could have ended the game much earlier and in your favor. And, like, I'm sure you still could have won the game late game, right? Like, is that a big deal? No. Or is that the biggest deal, I should say? No. Like, you can still, like, you have a Medusa, you can, of course, contest late game against, like, almost any lineup. But, like, you don't want to make early game mistakes just because you can go late game. It's kind of silly. Like, you're not even looking at these fights that are going on. I know you don't have a TP, but that's like a problem in and of itself. You should have a TP and constantly looking at these fights to see if you can go for them. Because, like, where did this guy die? I think, if I did that right, he died over there. I'm not sure. Yeah, because they're, like, they're winning right now, right? I imagine they're up a little bit. 10k, 15k. So they're, yeah, oh, okay, right, the kills too, dirt, obviously. So you got the MKB finished, he's probably pretty close to it. Yeah, so you have the counter to him. Spectre's doing pretty well, they're all doing pretty well. And, like, the thing is, like, you can look at your score and just be like, oh, I didn't lose this game. But, like, any of those deaths, I think you could have avoided both of those deaths, actually. Because remember we said you could have TP'd out there if you chose to have a TP. If you didn't turn back, I think you still wouldn't have died. Here, in the bottom lane, you died at the tier 1 when you were outnumbered. You could have just backed away there. I know you have a Scotty and it's like a strength peak, but you're still not invincible. Like, you're only at like 1600 HP and 1200 mana or whatever. It's not a point of invincibility. So here you're building a BKB, and that is, I'm gonna go ahead and just say it's wrong. Let's look at their items. Oh, she has the diffusal blade. Okay, she ditches it later then. Without the Manta, that's still not scary though. Like, she doesn't attack quickly, right? 200 attack speed. It's really not that scary. And, like, the other thing you're scared of is like an EMP, but like think about it this way. You can buy a B, like, in terms of slot efficiency, you can have a BKB. Oh, let's see what happens here. Fuck them up. Oh, maybe not. Maybe yes. I think you live there. Yeah, you do. Nice. That's huge. Like, if we look at this swing, it's probably at least 8k. Almost 8k gold, and 11,000 experience was a swing here. That's fucking crazy. It's like literally like game changing. You gotta turn your split shot off when you're trying to kill a tower, man. It's like probably not gonna make the biggest difference, but like when a game comes down to 80 minutes, maybe that is the difference that was necessary. You're still, yeah, I guess you're low on mana, so that was a good decision to be out there. But yeah, okay, so I want to slow down and talk about this BKB pickup. Like, in terms of slot efficiency, think about what a BKB gives you. Like, and this might even be true for now, because, like, we could say the BKB's right now. This is a 10-second BKB. That can be a lot in these fights. Like, this is probably fine now. Or a Rapier. Since your team is really far behind, it would have been cool with a Rapier pickup, too. Because, like, they can't take your mana if they're dead, right? Which is what the BKB is there to protect. It's either to protect chain stuns, which they don't have at all. Or I guess halberds too, if they're disarming you, or ghost e-blades too. I guess that works as well. You can get it for like both purposes, but for like survivability and surviving some magic damage or preventing yourself from getting mana drained, like an EMP is only removing 400 mana. So you buy a Scotty, you're getting more mana than that, and you're getting HP, and you're getting more stats. It's like, what's the point in getting, in terms of late game, like what's the point in having a 5-second BKB versus just having a full extra Scotty, you know? Like, the Scotty is better in every other situation apart from maybe you getting EMP'd. And even then, the Scotty should be giving you more HP than you're losing from the EMP. So, like, who cares? Like I said, that's just my commentary on that now. I'm sure, like I said, I think it's okay now, but when it comes to late game, like, the BKB should be probably the first thing you drop. You also have a Butterfly after they have MKBs. Should replace that with a Rapier. I also don't like crit that much. You can replace crit with another rapier because your split shots can't crit, but only your primary crits. So a rapier is going to do more AoE damage to everyone. So when it comes to killing all specters, illusions, and everything else, it's a way bigger deal. Did you already cold snap? I don't know how you got away with that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big Daedalus fan. I think it can be okay right now. You can even, if you want to exploit a timing, you can even look at this, because he's probably building a Manta next. Getting another Butterfly means he won't hurt you. This guy doesn't have an MKB. It's only him. Like, he's got an MKB to counter you, but, like, who cares? It's just one of their 3 cores, so, like, evasion's still kind of effective, so you can exploit timing windows. Not that crit's bad, like, it's what, the second most damage you can get now? Apart from, like, well, third, I guess. Abyssal and Rapier are still higher. Abyssal's still higher, right? I need to know this right now. It's gonna kill me if I don't know. Oh no. No, it's higher than Abyssal now. I think it was 85 and then they bumped it down to 70. Dicks, man. Dicks. Yeah, so I mean, like, the crit's fine. I think you can consider the butterfly too. Like a second butterfly. For like more damage. Because it's going to help with your survivability against her and a lot of the other people, and it helps with your output. The only person it doesn't help against is a Weaver, who you can outman fight anyway. Like, he has 1400 HP, you're seeing at 2400 HP. You're way more survivable than this guy. He, like, does not matter at all. I think, oh, you already have travels, wow. I don't know when you got those, but my point is now valid, or invalid. I think you need to be pushing out a lot harder right now. Like, you could just put your team behind you and try and push out waves. Or your team can actually get good vision up so you can split push kind of safely. Like we said, you split push, like, kind of fast. So you can go up this lane, show up here, you can push another one, and it won't take you very long to do that. You're playing very defensive right now. Like, you have the buyback. I know it's not ideal to use it, but you also need, like, lanes to be pushed to some degree. Is anyone else farming on your team? 4th there. OD's got a little, Darkseer's got a little. They're still pretty poor comparatively, but they're not in the worst shape in the world. Like, your team could be smoking and, like, looking for something. The thing is, like, they just don't have good catch or lockdown unless he has a sheep, which he doesn't. I think he got that really late too, which I think was a mistake. Let's go back and watch this. We'll see how we take this fight. Let's start running forward. You don't need to BKB yet. Like, what are we BKBing for here? This is just wasted. You also left your team to fight a Spectre. I think you need to be there for, because you reduce her damage output with your Scotty by quite a bit. Because if we look at her attack speed's pretty low, 250. It's not high. Yours is way higher. Well, 300. Yeah, it's a fair bit higher. That's a lot considering Scotty's moving like 35 or 45 or something. Yeah, attack slow's 45. So I think the BKB was kind of used prematurely there. Like, you either want to use it when, like, the Spectre is going on you, or when, like, you're getting hard CC'd by, like, one of these 3. You used it just to, like, run at an AA, even though you weren't under any sort of lockdown. You have the Daedalus, right? I think you do. Yeah, you're just working on the Moonshard. So you guys want a pretty big fight there. I think you should just push right up middle. Like, why not? You could push up middle and your team just gets there after you. And, like, if you get a lane pushed, you can then smoke and, like, wait for the enemy to show up at that lane. Because if you get another pick off, then you can, like, win the game right now. Oh, we just man up here. I like this. where you have your player perspective and you're so far back that you can't actually even see the enemy in your position. This is great. Here's where you just walk up and siege. I mean, it's just a disruptor, but he's the one who prevents your ultimate, right? It's pretty good. Just ult that. Hell yeah. Nice, you got the Weaver. Guess I wasn't wrong to back out there, but I'm not gonna say you necessarily had to. It's like this is one of those situations where like if you got the rapier over the Daedalus, like you haven't died since you got that, right? Like if you're at a point where you don't think you can die, like you have the butterfly and their 2 cores don't have MKBs. Like 2 of their cores don't have MKBs, only one of them does. You can get the rapier and then you could just be the tank and put out all the damage you need. So if you get a little more damage there, I think you end up like dominating that fight and being able to push out. Like don't be scared to ever pull the trigger on buying the rapier. I mean, I shouldn't say don't ever be scared, but like yeah, getting a rapier can throw a game, but not getting a rapier can cause you not to come back into a game, if that makes sense. Cuz like the peak you'd be at with a rapier right now is like pretty strong. Yeah, and also like don't feel like you're pushing these out enough. Like these gotta go. There's no invoker. Like you have a BKB, right? You have BKB travels. You can just BKB TP, and there's nothing any of them can do about it. Yeah, they've got nothing to. Is he really buying? Okay, no, it's BKB. I think it kind of happened quick, but I think you could have taken the. Jeez. Yeah, I think you could have taken the Aegis there if that was a little more coordinated. I know that kind of like came out of nowhere, but like you can even drop your travels, put them on the courier, and then have 3 lives, you know? Like you just walk up and you're just a tank, because people have to deal with you because you're a Medusa who does crazy damage. So if you, this is like another fight where like you barely lost that fight. If you had a rapier, you would have won that fight. Like you could drop your boots, pick up the Aegis, put your boots back in base, and you have a ton of gold, right? You're sitting on 5k gold right now, so you can like walk up middle with an Aegis instead of boots, fight, die, respawn with the Aegis, fight again, die, buy back, and respawn. Like who the fuck is going through that amount of HP? That's crazy. But that's just another thing you want to consider in terms of like late game. Obviously, it'd be particularly true if you had a rapier. But I think like when you felt your team was behind, and you had the butterfly, the Scotty, and the MKB. So you have the means to kill this guy. You just need some more damage. And like Spectre's still relatively weak. God damn it! I want to see your items. She's working on MKB now, and he still is not building anything. He's just trying to do magic damage, so he doesn't actually give a shit. Just sell a Midas? What a fucking retard. It's stupid to sell a Midas when you have extra slots. Like, what's the point? I guess he wants the MKB. Yeah, he's buying the MKB now. Whatever. Back to our hero. But like you still have BKB TP, so just push up here. So this is a 6 second BKB. It's just as good as a 5 second BKB. There's no reason for you to be scared. They can't kill you if you BKB. They have no way to instantly lock you down. There's nothing they can do to stop you. No Bissell, right? No. There's nothing they can do if you BKB TP. So why are we being a little bitch and just sitting here? Push super hard. Push up a lane. Your team doesn't even need to be there. You just BKB TP. They literally have nothing to stop you from doing it. And like when you have that type of advantage, it's like super important to actually exploit it. Alright, finally we're doing something. It's been like 30 minutes. The last smoke I remember is the one that you did that was dumb. You're sitting behind. I think it's kind of obvious if you're not farming that that like something's amiss. And like here's another thing, like if you were farming really aggressively with like, who the fuck did you just catch? Spectre? was a Spectre. Dead as fuck. Like, if you were farming really aggressively like that, your team can then bait you because it's not abnormal for them to see you farming super far out. So they can think like, oh, we can finally get the pick on this Spectre. She's pushing just a little too far this time, and then you get the pick off. Or sorry, then they go for the pick off and realize they're actually getting jumped by 5 people because you're baiting the tankiest hero in the fucking game. It's like, that's good BKB usage. Nice. And he gets away because you have no vision. Oh, wait? Oh, does not get away because you did have vision. I don't know how you had vision, but you had vision. Gem? I have no idea how you saw that guy. I'm pretty sure he was fucking invisible. Consumed a gem. If only that was the thing. See, this is smart. Like, now you're able to push this out, and then you have boots to travel, so you can just be with your team in like 8 seconds. And like, the 2 people who matter are not there. Does your team have detection? If they don't, I'm gonna fucking yell. 1 sentry. Jeez. And another sentry. Okay, cool. They do have it. Don't even. Just pretend this doesn't even exist. You got the BKB. Fucking. You could BK. He doesn't have an Ags. Oh, he does have the Ags now. You're getting pulled into that. You could have. You've just been running around in a circle right now. Like, even if he ults you, just fight. Just stand there and fight. Like, right now, turn back and fight. You're gonna hang this guy out to dry. I think he dies unless he has a pipe. He does have a pipe. Like, you just need to man up and fight here. Like, you're not fighting. You've auto-attacked for like 2 seconds in the last like 20 seconds of skirmishing. And now you're letting your Undying get ran down by an Invoker. Like, you need to stay together and like actually back up your team when you're trying to fight. Like, that's why you're losing that engagement. Just kill the illusion, whatever. So she's got an MKB. He does not have an MKB. He just sold all of his items. He just sold his Midas for no reason. So he managed to hold here. Like, this is why I think the Rapier would have been good earlier. Because, like, keep in mind, like, you're at that point where you just didn't die for, like, a really long period of time, right? Like, you're still kind of hard to kill. But if you had a Rapier in that time you were hard to kill, like, they wouldn't be able to output damage. And, like, now you see they have 2 MKBs on their primary right-clicking damage. He still doesn't. But that's something to think about. Okay, so we are getting rid of the Butterfly for a Rapier. That's smart. Because, like, the Butterfly, it gives you some attack speed, which is really nice, but you have the Moonshard, which kind of compensates for that a little bit, and, like, they already have the counters to the Butterfly, so what's the point? But, like, you can even, like I said, I was bitching at the, I don't think it's wrong to, I don't know, I really don't like the BKB. Situationally, before, it might have been decent, but at this point, I would get rid of the BKB for the Rapier. Just put out even more damage. This item only gives you like what, 24 damage, 10 strength. In terms of like stats, a BKB is a terrible item. It's only good for the avatar duration, which at this point is 5 seconds, so it's not that great. So you can replace that with a Scotty, or like right now, I would just take the Butterfly instead of it. All right. And but since you're holding the BKB now, you can just be split pushing. And like, you're still not doing it enough. Like, you can fearlessly split push, as we've harped on already. You can fearlessly split push. Oh, and we're killing it with the Rapier. Okay, so you can fearlessly split push, and you can use that to set up traps, and you're just not doing it. Like, you're getting creeps just because they're pushing lanes to you. Which means that they're heavily out creeping you. Like, you have 600, which is a fair bit more than their highest. But in terms of distribution, they're probably up at least 200 creeps on you right now. That's just because like their supports, they're not utilizing the jungle. If like they were utilizing the jungle correctly, and like they were fully farming out the map, they'd be drastically out farming you right now because your team hasn't had access. Your team hasn't had access to this part of your jungle. Obviously, the ancients, you have had access to this, but you only had like these camps and like push lanes, and you haven't really crossed this except when you want to fight. And there's no reason why you shouldn't. You yourself can't have been pushing that out. And like, let's say you keep this pushed out really far and this pushed out really far, it opens up the jungle for your team to actually get creeps. Because this motherfucker needs his sheep, and he needed it 30 fucking minutes ago. But like, you're taking all the farm. So while you can say like, oh, he's not farming well, it's also because you're taking all the creeps. So like, you need to improve your farming patterns like at this stage of the game to generate shit for your rest of your teammates. I would say fuck it. I would just sell the BKB right now and get it. You know, like the BKB is good for the split pushing, so you can use it to split push and then replace it with a rapier when you're defending, because like they have an Aegis, like they want to fight right now. Yeah, they have an Aegis and they want to fight, so you can use the BKB to split push, TP back home, and then just swap it with a rapier. Oh shit, I'm not in player perspective. But it seems like you're doing okay. Look at all that shit melting. So fast. We keep it back and handle this. I mean, this is kind of just like stuff that's kind of like clockwork. I don't know. There's nothing like interesting about this. See, in a 68-minute game, you shouldn't have barely like 11 creeps a minute. I don't even know if this is 11. This is like 10.5 or something. Because it's 680 creeps would be 10 CS a minute. You only have 750. I'm too lazy to do the math, but I think it's like barely 11 creeps. Nice way to man up. I like it. Dead Spectre. Oh shit, but you're under AL. Will you feed the rapier? I think the answer is no. You probably should have tried to call your team back there. I mean, I don't know what the level of communication is, but they all died again. But if you know you can't fight, like, they need to stay with you and, like, give you all the support you could possibly need, right? Also, someone needs to have a fucking Vlad's. Okay, he has a Vlad's. Cool. Nice if still in that AC too, but it's awkward because who builds it? I guess the Undying could. Ouch. That's never fun when they stall enough and they just take your racks with creeps. You just have to man up here and just buy the rapiers, honestly. Like like at this point you should feel that you're slowly losing this game, right? Like it's been happening for the last way too fucking long. But like here, like you have the money to buy like 2 rapiers right now if you want. You could sell your butterfly and your BKB and buy 2 rapiers. Or fuck it, just sell the BKB and buy 2 rapiers. Yeah, you have enough for that. And you can replace your BKB with a rapier, and then on the off chance you have to die and buy back or whatever, then you still have a rapier and a butterfly. But yeah, I don't know. What is this movement? You're like looking for something, but like the answer is just buy rapiers and then just sit behind the Medusa. Like that's what happens here. Like use your travels to get the lanes pushed, and then sit behind you. It's just like you're kind of approaching late game a little wrong, I think. I think you're the only one 6 slot on your team too. Yeah. Oh, you dead Weaver. This is awkward. You're killing people who are always on, who always have buyback. I don't think you've even. Okay, you did force a buyback on the Spectre. Do you have buyback up? He does. I have no idea why he sold his Midas still. I'll never know. I mean, I guess there's no real point in watching the rest of this. We'll watch it really quickly. I want to go back and recap. Just for the sake of seeing how this goes down. But I think there's a lot of things you could have done differently to win this game. So it's always nice to give the recap at the end too. I haven't. I usually sometimes I say this in the beginning. I haven't watched this preemptively. This is me just watching it live and like recording what I'm seeing. This guy might. Is he on buyback? I don't think he's on buyback. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's gonna be much to see for the rest of this. I mean, we know the game ends in 3 minutes, so. I still really think it's a mistake not to have the 2 rapiers. Like, you need the damage. I like that you were able to acknowledge that you don't need the butterfly anymore. So you just failed TP. Oh no, you got it. You could have had a refresher too. Okay, that's the game. Now it's just a formality of them walking down middle. Okay, cool. Jump right back to a part of the action. Alright, so big things. One, you rush to Scotty. Okay. First off, skill build. I think, and I don't think maxing spell shield or mana shield is really that great. I think I think you should max Mystic Stick first because that ability is just retardedly good. And then max Split Shot while having a casual point, like go 1-1-1 basically, or 1-2-1. I feel like I typed that so wrong. 1-2-1. And then max Split Shot, or sorry, max Snake, then max Split Shot. That'll let you really maximize your farm. Like I said, I prefer the treads. Some people like phase. I think treads are too good because of the ability to tread toggle early on in order to go to int treads, throw out your snake, go back to agi treads, and then get all that back. I think that's just too good early on to ignore. And treads are just better for DPS. I think a wand is completely core on Medusa, honestly. Like, just rushing like the Scotty, you still have room for a wand, and that wand gives you just so much in those early fights. Like, it can literally be the difference between you living and dying. In like a really long skirmish, you might even get 2 wand uses out of it. And the terms of like effective HP that gives you, it's just enormous. I really like the drums. I think in the future you should consider that because, like I said, your first fight contribution was at like 19 or 20 minutes because you're like, I want to farm a Scotty, and like we called that preemptive. Like I saw you get the first ultimate, I'm like, you until you finish your Scotty, you're not gonna want to fight, which is if you're about to finish a big item, you don't want to fight until you have that item because that's a huge power spike for you, which is fair, but you can accomplish a lot more if you go something like drums, which is like not I guess really not a ghetto Scotty, but it like gives you like a ghetto amount of stats for like a fraction of the cost and lets you do a whole lot. Like I'll usually 5-man with my team with just treads, Aquila wand drums, and then I'll start building the Scotty, and then I'll start replacing items. Like usually I'll even just leave my wand in the stash. I think the wand is so good, and if a game is close, then when you're doing base defenses, you obviously don't need a TP, and you could take your wand back. Like things like that can be the difference between like winning and losing games, or winning and losing fights, which can determine whether you win or lose games. Like little efficiency things like that, you really want to think about. Another part about the skill build, you can get your first level in Stone Gaze at either. I usually do it at either level 10 or 6. I think since you were mid, 6 was fine. Or I guess I could just say before 10. Because I want to max these as fast as possible to let me farm really quickly, and then obviously I want the casual point and spell shield. But like, you don't need to put an 11th point. You don't need to have 2 points at level 11 in Stone Gaze. Like having more in spell shield or more in your other abilities is way more valuable than a 10% increase in physical damage, which is really all that is. That's why, like, I'll just get stats over that because that's how insignificant that 10% is. Until I have like a major damage item, like maybe my butterfly MKB, then maybe it's worth getting the extra damage. Or if I have other people who do physical damage, but on your team, you're the only one who does physical damage. So if it's only you, you determine like if you're doing enough physical damage where the 10% more is worthwhile. And I think that would come with your like first or second major damage item. That's kind of a little thing. Like you can max this by 16. Like, do I think that's going to make the difference in the majority of games? Probably not. But I think choosing to level that at 11 is a very, very big deal. Because having a second point in spell shield, or in your case, you would have had more points in split shot, is really important. Because that's going to determine how fast you can farm. And you can't do, like, the most optimal farming for the entirety of the game. Like, you have to, you can farm super efficient usually early on, but, like, later on, you need to, after, like, we'll say the 18-minute mark, you should really prioritize split pushing lanes and, like, getting stuff pushed out over just getting as many creeps as humanly possible, you know? Um, okay, so we kind of went over that. That's skill build, itemization, and general thoughts towards the early game. I guess I'll expand on that a little more too. Look how much damage, 400 damage that did on the last bounce. So that's going to go to exactly what I want to say. Like, think about like 12 minutes into the game, if you could show up to a fight, you hit someone for a 400, actually it's magic, not pure. You hit someone for 400 magical damage with Mystic Snake. But it's not just hitting one, it's hitting like 6 bounces, I'm sorry. Does that mean it hits 7 targets? 1, 2, 3. No, I guess it's just 6 total. Whatever. Throwing that out in early game, like, think about it. People are sitting at, like, the supports are going to be sitting at, like, 800 HP, optimistically. Their cores, like, maybe Spectre, Spectre and maybe Invoker might have, like, 1,000 or, like, 1,100 if they built, like, some degree of stat items, like an Earned Treads or something like that. So you're taking, like, half their HP if they get hit with that last tick, and you're removing their mana, which is removing a lot of what they can do in fights. Like, Invoker blows through his mana pool pretty quickly early on. So, like, just think about what you could have done. Like, if you change that early game, and at, like, the 12-minute mark, you're with your team up here at this fight that happens here. Here? If you're with them, and instead of them feeding 8 kills, you guys get 8 kills, and they're able to take those objectives, this game probably doesn't go 80 minutes. You probably decisively win that stuff with your ultimate, which negates Spectre's ultimate, which is a big reason why they lost those fights. And you do stupid damage with your spells. Like that, like I can't emphasize that enough. That literally could have been the difference between this game ending at like 35 minutes with your team winning fairly decisively versus this going 80 minutes and your team's being down huge amounts of kills. Like, because you chose to do that really greedy route, your team was just in like a 4-on-5 because Spectre gaming, you know. And against a Spectre, you should want to, if it's possible, you should want to group up early and take down the objectives to minimize her ability to get haunt kills. I mean, she might get some in a team fight, but then when there's 5 of you there, she's risking her life by haunting into a fight. So I think kind of went over that pretty well. I think your itemization was good, and I know in the beginning I was like, oh, I think the BKB was a bad pickup, and I think you could have just swapped it out later on, and it would have been fine. But like, I talked about how you could use the BKB to split push, and like, you finished this game with barely any farm. Like, even now you don't have a lot of farm. With like reasonably timed travels, which I don't know how long you've had them for. I think it's been at least 10 minutes since you've had travels. It should not be hard for you to just get every lane pushed to like here, and here, and like here. It shouldn't be hard for you to do that, particularly like if you're against like a Beastmaster or something. Let's say a Beastmaster with an Abyssal Blade, so Lincoln's doesn't mean anything, right? Then it can be more risky for you to split push that aggressively, because he can blink on you, ult you, or Abyssal you to break your Lincoln Sphere, and then stun you with the other one. So you can't BKB TP out of something like that. But when you look at a lineup like this, where a BKB TP literally cannot be stopped until Spectre gets an Abyssal Blade, there's nothing else they can do. MKB's bash is magical and does not go through BKB. The only bash that goes through BKB from an item, well, there's only 2, I guess. There's only MKB and Basher. Is Basher because it's a physical bash. Doesn't matter if you're ranged or melee. So that's like something you have to keep in mind. Like, you never cross this threshold, and like the way that projects yourself is, one, like, you took all the farm from your team. Like, that's a big thing. Your OD was never slotted, like, because he's not particularly good, but like, you taking his farm didn't help him, right? No one else was really slotted. He had some items, but he could have had more too. Like, if you had like 2 sheeps on them earlier on, that could be the difference between you killing the fucking Weaver and not killing it. Like, he didn't get a BKB until so late. He's just pure offense, meaning like any amount of CC that your team can generate, because your team has no CC, which is why that Weaver pick was probably pretty decent. I mean, they could have taken like a Storm or like an anti-mage or something. Anyone who can utilize no CC, obviously. And they could have like gamed on you. They chose a Weaver, and the Weaver did pretty good. But yeah. So since you had the BKB, you needed to push this stuff out super far. And then if they go on you, you BKB, you ult BKB TP or BKB TP. It doesn't really matter. They're not going to be able to kill you. Like once you have that Scotty, they don't do any damage. Sorry, when you have the Scotty and you activate the BKB, he's not doing any damage with his defusal. His right clicks don't hurt. He doesn't right click and all of his spells are disabled. This guy does right click, but you're a goddamn Medusa and you have 2500 HP. Like it doesn't matter. I know I'm beating this to death, but it's so important that you understand that. Because you never crossed your river when you had no reason to be scared of it. Like you need to be splitting and forcing them to react to you. Instead, your team never had any awareness. And it's hard for them to like try and coordinate smokes and try and coordinate and do stuff when they don't have vision. And they don't have vision because the enemy team's pushing out the creep waves, and their main farming hero who has the ability to split push isn't doing it. And I think that's one of your huge late game problems that you didn't utilize, was actually farming correctly and like pushing out lanes and getting that space for your team so they can try and smoke up, take Roche. Like let's say you push this really far, your team gets into Roche, and then you can like boots travel over and help them take it after luring the whole enemy team over to here. Like that's an awesome maneuver. You lure the whole enemy team here, because let's be real, they have to come as 5 to actually kill you. To have any hopes of killing you, they have to be as 5. So when they fail to kill you or whatever, it opens up this whole area for your team. So that means potential Roches and huge amounts of jungle farm. And that I'm gonna say it again. It's a huge fucking thing. The last thing I'd say is to talk about itemization. Actually, like, I know I negged the BKB thing, and I know I've apologized for it already, but I think it was good in the context of this game. And you could have replaced it later on. I think when you bought the Daedalus, you should have felt the game was in a bad position. Because you could tell you're down like 10k, your team's down 20 kills. You have a Butterfly. The Spectre doesn't have the counter of the Butterfly. She doesn't have an MKB. She might have had the Manta. I don't think she had the Manta when you bought the Daedalus, honestly. Wait. Yes, she did. I don't remember the exact timings of it all. And I don't have Dota Buff Plus, so I can't look at these things. Yeah, so you could have just gone for the Rapier and then just YOLO'd it. Like, let's say if you're buying a Radiant, or a Rapier on a hero like... I have to think of heroes now. I'm trying to think of someone who's not a great Rapier carrier. Let's say you're doing it on Faceless Void or whatever. Or like a Jug. Like, they're not the best Rapier carriers, but like you can do it if a situation's really bad, right? But like someone like a Gyro, and a Medusa, and like a Wraith King, I guess, are like natural Rapier carriers who would synergizes really well with their skill sets. That allows them to carry Rapiers. So like it's not the most like all-in outrageous thing for you to buy a Rapier. And like if you look at this, like the only person who carries a Rapier decently well is like the Weaver. Spectre is not a good Rapier carrier at all. Invoker's okay, but he's going pure spellcasting, so he doesn't have like a Moon Shard or an AC or anything like that. So he would have a Rapier, and then he'd have Alacrity to do damage with. So if you keep that in mind, like buying the Rapier is not that crazy or all in. And it would have put you in a position to like really push the envelope before the Spectre had like MKB and her Manta and the Diffusal or whatever, where she can really try and like punish you, right? So like when she haunts or whatever, you just annihilate her illusions because you're putting out such crazy damage. And the Weaver can't stand toe to toe with you at all because he has no survivability items. He's all damage, and like he doesn't do enough damage, and at that point you'll be doing 4 times his damage. He's just 250 right now. With a Rapier, you would do 500, so you do twice his damage. I'm sorry. I think a little more than twice is what you'd be doing. So I think not buying the Rapier here is another thing that could have changed the game in your favor. But like up until that point, there's still so many other things you could have improved upon and done to change the game in your favor. And then in the late game, like we're talking another 15 minutes from now, you should have added in another rapier. You should have had 2 rapiers. You replaced the butterfly with a rapier. I think you could have replaced the Daedalus or the BKB with a rapier. Like if you want to just walk down a lane and fight, then get rid of the BKB. The BKB is, like we said, really good for split pushing. If you're in a straight up fight, it's not going to make the biggest difference. And the double rapier, my argument for that would be the same as my argument for the first rapier getting it earlier. Is like, you can just do such an overwhelming amount of damage if your team can keep you alive for a little while. And then it's super scary for them to try and confront you. And the last thing we'll talk about is the Aegis. I think dropping your boots for the Aegis and then using 3 lives could have been another thing that changed it, but we watched that kind of quickly. I think they jumped you right as Roshan was dying, and your OD picked it up, so that's kind of iffy. Oh, and in some fights you were just running around a lot, not fighting, and not using your abilities. Like all your job is just to sit there and just fight, and your team's just running around, and like you just didn't attack for you attacked for like 3 or 4 seconds over like a 20-second skirmish, which is just really bad. So you weren't putting out any damage. And yeah, I think it's important to think about the dropping boots for an Aegis. It's totally fine, particularly if you have 2 fucking rapiers, and then you just buy back. You have the 2 lives, and then the 3rd life if you somehow die again. Putting out that much damage with that much survivability, the odds of you dying twice are so insignificant. But like hypothetically, if you did, you still have the 3rd life to come back in with. And like the odds are, you would have exhausted the majority of their lives in buybacks with 2 rapiers and 2 lives on Medusa. If they somehow did manage to hold you off, you could probably just walk back in, and maybe it'll be an AA holding a rapier, or they're leaving the rapiers on the ground for their cores to respawn. But I mean, we're just getting to so much hypothetical there that it's not even really worth talking about, honestly. The point is, you can carry the Aegis and not have boots because it really doesn't matter, because they have to deal with you with the 2 rapiers hitting their racks. So not being able to move fast does not matter at all. Okay, cool. We're going to end it there. I think there's a lot of cool things to look at in this, and a lot of things that you can improve on. And you can look like, oh, I was carrying my team and they're all feeding. You put them in a situation where they got behind really early against a Spectre, and then they were behind against a Spectre. Like, that's the gist of this game. Okay, well, I'm going to end it there. I hope it helped. Feel free to send another replays, all that jazz. Always here to review some stuff. Hopefully not as long next time.